Hey guys, welcome to another Ultimate Edge webinar series. This time I'm really excited about this particular webinar we're doing now because I get to interview my sister, Marcia. Not excited because I'm interviewing my sister. I'm excited because of the story that Marcia has. I obviously have known her for quite some time. She's been involved in our mortgage company for quite some time. However, she was investing in real estate before that. And I think that her story is really going to allow you to learn something from a passionate person's approach to real estate. So with that, let me introduce Marcia. Marcia Murphy, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, John. And I'm going to do a big shout out. Aloha to everybody from Hawaii. I'm so excited to be here and share a little bit of my story. And I'm excited for you to learn something, John.
I bet you're going to teach me something today. I'm excited about that too, Marcia.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning, a little bit before you got into the mortgage industry. I know you were purchasing real estate. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got into real estate, some of what you learned there, and maybe some of the painful lessons, whatever, that might teach our audience something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wait, do I have a lot of that? So my story goes back, and this is even before what you don't know, John. My story goes back to when I was in college. That's when I got my first taste of real estate and being like a landlord kind of thing. So I was in college, my first year in the dorm, and there was a bunch of us girls that hung out together, and we just couldn't wait to get off campus and rent something. And we discovered as we tried for a summer to find places to rent, we were in Bozeman, Montana. It was really hard. And I remembered my dad had a double wide mobile home. And I called Dad up one day and said, Dad, if you can get that mobile home down here, I got a place to set it. And I got a line of 10 girls that want to rent rooms from me. So this is going to help pay for my college. And he did it. He set up that mobile home, and I had a line of girls that wanted to rent from it. And I was like Miss Landlord. And we even got rid of that one and bought a three bedroom mobile home. Thanks to my dad. He was so great. And I was a little landlord. And you never knew that story, did you, Don?
I knew a whole story because he was my dad too, Marcia. So I absolutely did. So there's two lessons here, guys, that I think we can draw from this. We call it house hacking in the new era here. Marcia just called it renting rooms to that line of girls that was lined up that wanted to rent a room from her. That's how you can pay for real estate. And then the other thing, of course, is if you have a parent that will help you get started, that's how a lot of people get started in real estate. You use the resources that you have at hand for sure. All right, good, Marcia. Okay, you were becoming a landlord in Bozeman, Montana, and then what happened on your journey for real estate?
Then we fast forward to when I'm in my career. I was not a loan officer. I worked for AFIS, the Army Air Force Exchange Service, and that was kind of like being in the military because I was moved all over. And I had opportunity to come to Hawaii, and I was working at Schofield Barracks. And I had a really bad experience with a landlord. There was a bunch of us renting a big house and giving him money. And then one day I'm at work and I get a call that the guy was a fraud. He didn't own the house, and the real owners came back and they were kicking us all out that day. Now I'm at work.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I knew that one. My goodness.
It was terrible. And thank goodness I had friends, and they packed up all my stuff and took it with them. And that was just crazy. And I just was thinking that, I was complaining at work and all that. And somebody said to me, well, why don't you just take control of your life and buy something? And I was like, oh, really? I could do that? I don't think I could do that, John. I was pretty sure I wasn't going to be able to do that. But I thought they put the little bug in my ear. So I reached out to a real estate agent, and the nicest man, I'll never forget him. And he said, I'm going to help you, Marcia. Let me get your information. So he got my income, which wasn't that great, and my credit and all that. And he lined me up with a loan officer. And the loan officer said, yes, I think that you could buy something. It's not going to be a lot, but you really got to come up with a little bit of money. Okay, and I didn't have any money, John. So I don't know, you might remember this. So it was an FHA loan, first time home buyer. And I didn't have any money. And there was this condo in Waikoloani Woodlands in Mililani, Hawaii. And I needed $9,000 to for the down payment and the closing costs. Now, listen up, first time home buyers. I went to my brother, John. Listen, I really got to buy something, John. I know you got some money, and you know, if you'll just like gift me $9,000, I will forever be in your debt. And when and if I ever sell it, I'll make it up to you, John. He's like, okay, maybe I can do that. So he gave me the 9,000. And I bought this little condo, a 2-bedroom condo. I was scared to death that I wasn't gonna be able to make the payments, but I rented out a room. It was really fun. It was a great experience. And so here I am, really in my first place that I've really bought on my own with my brother's help.
And that little condo kind of was your springboard, as I recall, into more real estate in Hawaii. Let's follow along your story here.
About a year, not even a year, maybe 8 months after I bought that, I got orders from APHIS to go to Okinawa. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I own this place. What am I going to do? And I called the realtor and he's like, don't worry about it, Marcia. I'm going to take good care of you. I'm going to get a tenant in there. I'm going to manage it. You just go. Enjoy your life. I'm going to take care of this. He was the nicest man, John. So I went off to Okinawa, and about 6 or 7 months after I was there, I get a call from the realtor and he goes, Marcia, the market in Hawaii has exploded. You would not believe it. Your property has almost tripled in value. Do you want to sell it? And I'm like, wow, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And he said, okay, well, you check into capital gains and all that. And I'm like, what's capital gains, right? So I call it tax guy. And John, you know, there was a loophole that if you are overseas, that you are exempt from paying capital gains.
Whoa.
I mean, that was really a God moment. I'm like, I don't have to pay any capital gains. So I sold that condo and I put that money in the bank for future when I was coming back. I was in Okinawa for 2 years, and then I got stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia, and Columbus is where I was living. And now I have the taste of home ownership, you know, like I gotta buy, right? I mean, I can't be renting after that horrible experience I had as a tenant. And so I looked and looked, I hooked up with a really good realtor. If there's a message at all, I mean, find professionals to work with that you like and trust, because the first guy, he was amazing. I'll never forget him. And then this agent in Columbus, Georgia, she knew her stuff. And we looked and looked, and then she said to me, why don't you just build something? So I can do that. And she said, yes, you're already approved for a loan. I said, okay. So she hooked me up with her contractor, and I picked a floor plan and we built a house.
Just briefly, this was a little bit of off track but what was the experience like actually constructing your own house with the builders and all of that?
It was, you know, he made it so easy because, you know, he had the floor plan, and really what I did is I picked out the fixtures and the colors and the flooring and that kind of thing. And it was fun. It was very fun. And it was like, kind of like, you know, you're picking out colors of this and this, and you don't really know I wonder if it's going to go together kind of thing, but it all came together very well.
Okay, good. Now, as I recall, you weren't in Georgia all that long. What happened then?
Well, John, I just want to let you know a little experience I had when I was in Georgia building the house. That it was about a 4-month process. And I never once heard from the loan officer I was working with. Not once. And then, so we're almost done. Like we're about 3 months in, and it's coming around the corner. And I got a call from the real estate agent, said, Marcia, it looks like the market is changing and the rates are about to go up. You need to call the loan officer and you need to tell him to lock your rate in, right? So I called him. You know, I'd never heard from him through the whole transaction. Then I called him and I asked him to lock the rate in that day, and the rate was like 7.75. That's where they were. And so we're going to close in a month, and I'm super excited. And the house was done, so they let me move in a week early. And the day before I was going to go to the closing, I got a knock on the door and I open it, and it's the loan officer came to my house.
A house call.
And he said, hi, Marcia, nice to meet you. I'm Jill, your loan officer. I had to let you know something. And I said, oh, what was that? And he goes, well, I didn't get your rate locked in. I'm really sorry. And now I'm sorry. I just need to let you know that your rate's going to be 8.5. And now I'm not in the industry. I don't know anything. I'm just a lay person that is like, depending on professionals to guide me. And here he is telling me he didn't lock my rate in.
Ouch.
I was devastated. And when I called the real estate agent and told her, she called Joe and she said, Joe, I don't care what it takes. I don't care what it's going to cost you. I don't care what it costs your institution. You will honor that 7.75 rate that you offered Marcia, or you will never get another client from me. He honored it. And that's when I decided to jump into the mortgage industry, because I was like, this cannot happen to people, right? This is just plain wrong. So there you go. That was my start to the mortgage industry.
I guess that's kind of amazing. A house call to deliver bad news, Normally it's kind of the other way around.
From somebody that I never heard from through the whole
never
transaction.
Seen or met before. Very interesting. Okay, so you got the rate, you're in Georgia, you're in your happy little house that you just built. What's next?
Then I got orders to come back to Hawaii, but in the interim, I did get into the mortgage industry with your expertise. I did go to work for a mortgage company there. I went through a mortgage lending class that I went out and got a lady to teach. And I just was very, very adamant about knowing what I'm doing and knowing the industry. And I was doing all this while I was working a full-time job. And then I got an opportunity to come back to Hawaii with APHIS. And I thought, what a great place to do mortgages. Of course, I'm going to go back to Hawaii. So packed my bags, came back to Hawaii, sold that house in Georgia and made a little bit of money. And when I got to Hawaii, I was stationed at Schofield again. And guess what I did? I decided to buy another property.
Bought a house.
Yes. Actually, I bought a condo at Turtle Bay. It cost me $115,000. And as a side note, that same condo just sold for $1.2 million.
There's a lesson there, Marcia, I think.
Yeah, I should have kept that condo. Anyway, I bought the condo. It was great. And then they moved me from Schofield to Hickam, and I couldn't make the drive anymore. So I still had money from my sale of my previous experiences. And then I bought another place in Honolulu at the Marco Polo and rented out the Turtle Bay condo. And wise move. And both those loans are FHA loans, John. I don't really get I'm just attracted to FHA, but they worked out very, very well.
FHA is a great loan in the right situation. It still is.
Yes, it is. Prices were a lot lower. Rates were around the 8% where they are today almost, but at that time it's just where they were. And the payments were manageable. So it worked really well. So now I had a rental property and I had another condo that I was living in, and fast forward a couple years, and this time I'm doing really well in the mortgage business. Somebody showed up at my door, because all this time I was doing both, and said, you got to make a decision. It's either that job or the mortgage business, because doing both is going to kill you.
Wow, who was that?
And,
okay.
And
obviously you chose correctly.
I did. I didn't know it at the time. I was scared to death. I'm leaving a secure job with benefits and all that to go out on my own and try to make it. But I hated the job. Why stay in something you don't like doing? And let me just jump into off the boat and into the water and see what happens.
Good
So that's what I did.
Good for you. Yeah, there's lots of lessons to be pulled out of this. I want to pause for just a moment. So we are talking now in a rate environment that is actually slightly lower than the rates Marsha's been talking about for the last few minutes, where she bought the last 2 or 3 homes. And she still bought at them, and she still made money on them, and she still let them cash flow and all of that. So when's the best time to buy real estate? Well, probably right now, because of a lot of good reasons. It's probably going to go up in value, as Marsha experienced with her homes. Rates are probably going to come down later, and you can refinance later. There's lots of good reasons now. So don't get hung up on rates when you think they're too high, because what happens with real estate, historically speaking, guys, is it just keeps marching on. It goes up and down. I get it. But over time, it just keeps increasing in value. So I just wanted to capture that, Marsha. Thank you for that.
Absolutely, John. And I couldn't have said it better. So
the condo down in Honolulu, that's where we're at. What's next?
And I have the condo at Turtle Bay. And so I'm in the industry, and I have great relationships with great real estate agents. And of course, they're like, oh, Marsha, you really need to buy this house. This is a great house in Eva Beach. It would be perfect for you. 3-bedroom, 2-story. The whole family can come and hang out and that kind of thing. And so John, I sold the Turtle Bay condo. I paid $115. I sold it for $450. So you see
Not
what
bad.
realty can do. Yeah. And I bought this house. I think it was $625,000-ish. Then I rented Marco Polo. I was there for about a year and a half, and I didn't really like living in Eva Beach that much. And I had a lot of friends that lived on the North Shore of Oahu in this fabulous building. And they were like, you need to come out here. You need to come out here. So this unit came available in this fabulous building. And so I thought, yeah, I think I'm going to buy this unit. So I sold Marco Polo. And John, as a side note, every one of those sales that I did, this is a God thing, I'm telling you. I was in those properties 2 out of the last 5 years, every one of them.
Wow.
I did not pay capital gains taxes on a single one of those properties. And I didn't even know that I was doing that, right? But it just worked out so well. So another big
Marsha,
lesson.
Let's pause. So those of you who are not aware of what Marsha just said, there is an IRS guideline, and if you live in your personal residence 2 of the last 5 years, which means you got to live there at least 2 years, right? And then you can rent it for a little while. As long as you've lived there 2 of the last 5 years, when you sell it, if you're single, you can avoid capital gains tax up to how much, Marsha, did you avoid at that time?
I didn't pay any.
Well, there you go.
250,000 is the number, and on top of what you put into the property. So
yeah, and if you're married, it's more. And then let me just emphasize here, we are not tax advisors, neither Marsha or I. If you want tax advice, please consult a tax advisor who knows what they're doing and get tax advice from them. We're not giving you tax advice here. All right, Marsha, so you sold that property and bought the condo.
I sold the one in Honolulu, and I bought the condo, and I rented out Ocean Point house for several years. And then this is where it really gets good, John. So
all right.
And think about rates. I just want everybody to center on rates for a minute. I decided that it wasn't, that house really wasn't cash flowing. I mean, it was kind of break even, and some months I would lose money because there was expenses, right? So I just decided that I think I'm going to sell that house and reinvest the money in some properties on the mainland, basically some lower price properties that can cash flow for me. And well, first I was going to just sell the house because I was tired of managing real estate, a rental. And then, but when my CPA said, okay, you can do that, but you're going to pay $100,000 in capital gains, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what they call a 1031 exchange and So I put the house on the market and I flew to the mainland to some different areas. And John, I was able to sell that home, and with the proceeds, and I had owned the home for several years, 8 or 9 years. I was able to buy 4 properties on the mainland. 2 of them were duplexes, and 2 of them were single family homes. So it's 6 doors, right? 6 rental units. And because I was doing it all at the same time and getting this weird kind of loan, the rates were 7.5 was the rates that I had on all 4 of those properties. And that's when the rates were really at like 4%. But because I was doing this weird kind of, selling something and buying 4 properties at the same time, that's what I ended up with. All I looked at was, is it cash flow? Yeah, cash flows. I'm fine. And I am so glad I did that, because the 2 duplexes in Spokane, I paid $200 for, and they're now worth $600.
There you go.
And that's like 4 or 5 years ago. So, the other 2 single family, they were kind of so. So I ended up selling one and reinvesting it into an opportunity zone fund. And if anybody wants to know what that is, I'll be happy to give me a call and I'll explain it. Another way to defer capital gain taxes, because I am allergic to those taxes, John. And I sold the other one and bought a little condo in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Wow.
I know, it's just like boom, boom, boom. And it's like, it's just, it's amazing what real estate can do. I don't put any money in the stock market because I don't know the stock market, and I would probably lose it all. But I do know real estate, so I stay in my lane, what I know, and it's worked out really well.
Quite well, it sounds like. That's quite the story you have, and I understand why you're so passionate about real estate. If you were sitting down with a first-time homebuyer couple, let's start there. You're at Starbucks, you're having a cup of coffee, and they ask you, Marcia, what should we know about getting started in real estate? What are you going to tell them?
That's a really great question. The first thing I would tell them is that you need to align yourself with professionals, people that like, and trust, people that know what they're doing, they understand real estate, and they can guide you and educate you. That's number one. You've got to get educated and understand what the process is all about. And then the cost, then everything involved with it. And that takes sitting down with a great real estate agent and a great loan officer that can guide you through the process. Secondly, I would tell them, don't give up. It's not, it could be hard. You might make like 10 offers and somebody else, bids you out, gets the properties instead of you. But so what? Go, do what you got to do to get into real estate. And the last thing I tell people is that first purchase is not going to be your dream house. It just isn't. Just buy a junk condo if that's what it takes, right? If you can be okay with it, it will appreciate in time. And that is your path to building wealth with real estate.
I like it. All right. Now we're going to speak to the investors. As you know, one of the things we want to do with our clients is show them how to create wealth with real estate. It's a part of our mission statement. And I see we have Angelique Tinney on the webinar now. Angelique's the president of the REAPS organization of Seattle, which is a REIT in Seattle. Shout out to REAPS and Angelique. Thanks for joining us. So let's speak to that audience right now, Marcia. Investors, maybe even investor wannabes. It's that those people who bought a house or two, they're really interested in creating wealth with real estate, but it's rental properties now and it's kind of challenging, and there's the ups and downs which you've described. Tell us what you'd like to tell to that particular audience, what you've learned.
Well, the first thing I would say is, to understand your market that you're investing in. I think that's super important to understand what you're buying. I did not just decide to buy 4 properties on the mainland without going there and driving around the different neighborhoods and and evaluating the market and the different dynamics within those areas. And is it a landlord friendly place or not? And all those variables. You really, really, really got to do your research and understand what you're buying and everything that goes with that. So you want properties that are going to cash flow for you. I mean, that's the whole reason that you're doing that. You want properties that have the potential of appreciating. So you really have to do your homework and your research. And again, I would tell you to align yourself with a very smart real estate agent that can guide you. I think that they are worth their weight in gold, a good agent. So
absolutely. So leveraging what Marcia just said, I'm going to add to this is to get plugged into some kind of mentorship someplace. Align yourself with a loan officer. You could be a mentor. The REAPS group that I mentioned in Seattle is great for that. If you would, I'm sure there are REIA groups in different areas. If you're looking around the country, in Hawaii, I know that to be true because we've spoken to the REAPS group over there as well. So plug into people who have a similar mindset. And as Marcia said, don't give up. This is not a get rich quick scheme, hardly ever. And it takes a lot of work, and it takes creativity, it takes persistence, it takes consistency, it takes all of that. But the things you can do with real estate, as outlined by Marcia's story here, which is phenomenal, is amazing. You can't do it any other place that I'm aware of.
Add to that when you're aligning yourself with professionals, I would encourage you to include an attorney, a real estate attorney, and a CPA and a financial advisor with your team. Like, get a little team of a real estate agent, a great loan officer, and you've got everything covered.
Absolutely. We call those our power partners, guys. So if you know one of those people, they probably know the other partners, and they can connect you with them and refer you to the right people. Great point, Marcia. All right. Yeah. Any closing thoughts that you want to leave our audience, Marcia? Anything at all you haven't touched on?
I really have a heart for first-time home buyers, John. I mean, they just kind of they seem so innocent, and they don't really know what they're doing, and they're so scared. And so, again, you want to align yourself with professionals, but there's no greater way, in my opinion, to build wealth and to start with whatever it is that you can start with. Get over the jitters. And of course, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you can't make a mortgage payment. I would never suggest that. But you just want to start somewhere if at all possible. And if I leave this presentation with any word of advice, that would be it.
I think that's great. We're to start somewhere. Don't give up. Keep moving forward. Absolutely right. Marcia, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. I mean, I have learned stuff, as you said, about your story that I did not know before. And Marcia's my sister, as I mentioned, so I've known her a long time, and I've watched her little path here in real estate and as she grew. So this was great. Love your passion. Love the lessons you're conveying here. Thanks so much for joining us today, Marcia. We very sincerely appreciate it.
Very, very welcome, John. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.